ready when you are.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Not Content Podcast on the From the Key Podcasting Network. My name is Jerome Caan. As always, joined by my colleague Brian. Here tonight, we are ending our tribute to Rob Reiner by discussing his 1990 movie Misery. As always, please leave a 4 or 5 star review so as to get people to listen to this podcast, and click the bell icon on YouTube for the notifications. Don't forget to subscribe. Brian, here tonight we are going to be discussing, of course, we are going to be discussing Misery, 1990s Misery, a movie. I really wish I had seen this before Send Help. I wish I had not seen the critic episode before seeing this because I feel like those two things have undoubtedly had a negative effect on my feelings on this movie, which is fine. Like, I want to be clear. Like, I don't think the movie is bad. I think it's fine. I think Send Help and is better, and I think the critic parody of this is almost too good.
Yeah, one of the many parodies I'm sure that have been throughout the history of parodies, because I think this is one of the more memorable scenes in history that's been parodied, right? Like the foot scene. Spoiler alert, it's been 30 something years, folks. Maybe almost 40 at this point, but yeah, the hinging foot is what really gets you, right? Like spoiler alert, but man, that's what it is, I think, that really gets people about this movie is the foot thing. Besides the fact that it's great performances, or maybe you may not think there's a good performance out of James Caan. We'll get to that, but Corey Kathy Bates got nominated. Did she win? I forget, but she definitely got nominated. Totally deserved it. Stole the show. Total psychopath. One of the more memorable psychopaths on film in history. I prefer her over Anthony Perkins in Psycho 1, but that's a whole different debate. That's a whole different debate. But yeah, it's tremendous. I have some issues with some of the set design, but I don't know if that's a set design thing or a cinematographer thing, because this is actually cinematographer is Barry Sonnenfeld, which is the director of Men in Black. He was on his way up to being a director, and you can tell like he kind of had that director kind of eye with his cinematography. But some of those shots made it seem like it was too obvious it was a Hollywood set. You know what I'm saying? Like that room seems so big
Yeah,
and a lot of empty
I
space.
think the set thing works for Princess Bride because of what Princess Bride is, but I don't think it necessarily works for this movie. I have to say, because I looked up what Roger Ebert had to say about this movie in particular, and I'm going to read his last paragraph to you, and it actually perfectly encompasses my thoughts. It perfectly encompasses my thoughts. So, quote, it is a good story, a natural, and it grabs us. True. But just as there is almost no way to screw it up, so there's hardly any way to bring it above a certain level of inspiration. Many competent directors could have done what Reiner does here, and perhaps many other actors could have done what Caan does, although the Kathy Bates performance is trickier and more special. The result is good craftsmanship and a movie that works. It does not illuminate, challenge, or inspire, but it works. That is my feeling on this movie. Perfectly.
Well, I would say it inspired, you know, special effects guys, right? Like but that's not what he's meaning in this paragraph. Obviously, he's meaning like, the theme, something to say about this. What does it say about fans and fandom? I don't know, because like that term "stan" didn't really become a thing or a name or into the public until Eminem like kind of made it a public thing in like the late '90s, early 2000s, right? So "stan" wasn't really a term. There wasn't really a terminology for like a super hard crazy fan like this, right? Back in 1990, it was just like I'm your number one fan, and then all of a sudden that kind of
This
brings up
movie
red
is
flags.
also ahead of its time because I just pictured the Star Wars fandom, and I'm not going to turn this into a Last Jedi debate, but I just feel like it has destroyed. Like, I think the Star Wars fandom has really destroyed the franchise in some ways, as much as, if not more than Disney. And again, it's not particular to one movie. I just think in general, like, I just see Kathy Bates as the sycophant, especially the YouTube grifters. Like that's the thing. It's like, if you want to like it, just like a movie, that's fine. But I look at the YouTube grifters as a huge issue. And again, it's not just Star Wars. I think it's also wrestling as well. Wrestling fans are just so siloed at this point. I think it's worse on the WWE side because they're watching a product that is essentially very baby brained, and like, I think the AEW fans, certainly, I understand where they're coming from, but I think they also have their issues as well. And again, it's not every AEW fan, it's not every WWE fan, it's not every Star Wars fan, but it's just like especially the online fans, the ones who are on Reddit, the ones who are on Twitter and BlueSky. I mean, I think it is a real problem that this movie is really getting at. Probably years before it would have been it would have been relevant.
Yeah, I think that was the really cool thing about this is how like it has this lasting power over time, in terms of its meaning, and of course, like the last 10 years, it's like totally, I think, raised its value in terms of its long-term standing. Um, and I guess that's really cool. You know what I mean? Because like I think when this started getting around, like in the home videos, rental era, right? Like mid '90s, late '90s, early 2000s, it had a good buzz to it. But I think the buzz has gotten bigger because of this, and I feel like that's just because of the subject of this kind of like super fandom going crazy kind of thing. It's very weird, but timing is everything, and I guess they were just way ahead of it. Maybe Stephen King was just way ahead of it. Maybe he was experiencing it himself in a small kind of micro fracture way compared to what it is now because there was no internet.
I mean,
Uh,
he literally was making a joke about bad endings. I think it's in the It miniseries that was also on around this time. I know he references it in his books. So, I mean, he's been dealing with that criticism literally since before the internet existed. I mean, the internet didn't exist in any literal form until the late 80s. And I feel like those criticisms had started beforehand. So I could definitely see where he's coming. I don't know. Like for me, I think James Caan is just like he's not bad. I think what they're going for is they're like going for this very like working class feel because I think that's how Stephen King sees himself. I don't think he sees himself as like the super rich author, like bourgeoisie type of person, which is fine. But like I think James Caan, you cast him for the work for that reason. I think about a movie like Thief, where that's one of his best performances, if not his best performance. But I think the reason that he doesn't quite work is like I think he's just. It's not that I don't believe that Kathy Bates could sedate him because obviously he's in an accident. It's just he feels like too much of a tough guy, knowing like he's in The Godfather and things like that. It just feels to me, it almost feels like if Billy Crystal was in this role, the movie actually would have been better in a weird way. Like I can't imagine Billy Crystal doing something like this, but I think it would have been a really interesting experiment if Billy Crystal had played the James Caan role and had kind of been because like in a lot of ways he's an extension of Rob Reiner in When Harry Met Sally, and it would have been really interesting to see him kind of as an extension of Stephen King in this movie. And like I just couldn't help but think of it, especially given what we reviewed last week. But like to me, it's just Kathy Bates is so perfect, and I think she nails every aspect of it. Like the reason that this movie I would say is good is because of Kathy Bates. I think that the performance that she gives is like one of the all time great female performances that I've ever seen in a movie. And it's just like it just doesn't feel like James Caan is on the same level.
there was casting issues. They wanted a lot of high profile names. Apparently, they threw out Robert Redford's name. Apparently, someone like that. I can imagine Jack Nicholson. You know what I mean? Kind of reuniting with the Stephen King kind of theme or whatever it is, like that kind of vibe. I can see that as well. I can see Billy Crystal, but for some reason, James Caan in this role is kind of like he's playing a I don't know, opposite of what you would expect, and I kind of like that about this role because, like, to me, I'll always see Sunny. When I see James Caan's face, I'll always see Sunny and his hot headedness and his aggressiveness and impatience. You know what I mean? But he's the complete opposite of this because I guess in this situation, if you're a smarter person like he is, I guess you know not to overreact and just kind of play the part and kind of slowly figure out what's going on and how to play things. You know what I mean? Because that's exactly what happens. He's not yelling and screaming necessarily. He does in some parts, obviously, and not just
Right,
because
and he
his foot is
shouldn't be doing
broken.
it like he shouldn't be doing it, I would
Yeah,
say.
and it's very low key, and I guess the books like that apparently as well. And I guess that was a kind of an issue with the casting is that I guess a lot of the actors wanted to go a little over the top, be more a little aggressive towards the situation. But I guess that Rob Reiner was like, no, we got to play it low key like the book because that's the way this guy's going to react to these things in this situation.
It's very
And
hard to play something low key in a movie as opposed like you could write
right,
because in a book you could do inner monologue stuff to compensate for it, but in a movie I don't think playing low key when you're doing essentially a two hander, I don't think low key works, especially in a horror movie.
For me, it worked with James Caan because I'm staring at his eyes. I'm just thinking, like, in his situation, like, okay, I'm fucked, but maybe I can get out of this, and that's kind of like the vibe I always get. And every scene, especially when he's like, "What is he doing?" And then you see, of course, we're going to spoil some stuff here, but in the middle of the second act, the pill stuff, you're like, "What is he doing with the pills?" Right? And then you figure out he's trying to drug her, and then it all goes awry. And I can only imagine the audience in some of those moments going, "Oh no!" Like I can imagine a big "oh no" from the audience in 1990, the moment that glass of wine spills. You know what I mean? So great suspense. Obviously, Rob Reiner learned a lot from Hitchcock because obviously Hitchcock would have totally directed the shit out of this, right? If he was in his prime and he was offered the script, like totally would have directed the shit out of this. He would have probably even kept the violence and maybe upped it a little bit more. But Rob Reiner's not that kind of guy, I think. But yeah, I mean, even you know, even with the performances and the highs and the lows, my only issue again is like the Barry Sonnenfeld, this weird idea that we have to show this empty space, and I wasn't really digging that. I feel like it should have been more claustrophobic and tighter. You know what I'm saying? But for some reason, they would go really wide on some of these shots to see the room, and it's so empty and brown. And of course,
Is
maybe
it
it's I don't
weird
know,
that I
feeling
feel like
brown.
the critic nailed this better than the movie did? Is that weird to say?
Sometimes they do it right. I mean, I do remember a good parody of The Lion King. Like it was supposed to be the perverted version, and of course, it was Howard Stern as the cockroach doing a Lion King bit. So that the critic was spot on, man, in terms of those parodies of movies. So it's not surprising to me, you know what I'm saying, especially for this era. And of course, I think this movie, like again, I mentioned the effects, like it just really sticks out the way they shot it. Um, and of course, this is the comparison, one of the comparisons to Send Help, of course, because as soon as I saw that scene in Send Help with the threatening of the balls being
We
cut
are going
off,
to
right?
spoil Send Help. I just want to state that for
Not
the
the
record.
whole movie, but some
I mean,
parts.
I might do that, but we'll see.
Okay,
So
okay.
expect spoilers for Send Help. Yep.
But the cutting of the balls obviously is very reminiscent of the breaking of the legs as a warning, right? But in of course, in the case of Misery, it went over the top. Um, and they talk about the diamond mine thing, and that was just horrific what she described. Because as soon as she says that, it's like, no, don't, whatever, don't do that. And then you see the setup and the slow build and the Triple H esque swing. And I don't know if Triple H just watched this movie during the Attitude Era and got inspired because the goddamn sledgehammer is so iconic in this movie to me. And then, of course, when she hits the foot, the way they did it, man, the swinging hinge, they probably put a hinge on it, like, on a doorknob or something, and just let it swing. And it's for those 2 seconds, that's all you needed. But I can't help but think of
That's
like
an
a
example of good
Tarantino.
cinema. I mean, I thought that specifically was one of the highlights of the movie, actually. But
Yeah. And it's on that list of like greatest. I forget what Bravo did years ago, like 25 years ago, the greatest, of course, of that time, the moments of horror. But I just think that scene is so inspirational to like special effects people, horror people, and I think if it was like a Tarantino type, he would have probably extended the shot a lot longer, and like maybe even a close up. But the way Rob Reiner did it, just the 2 seconds, that's all you needed to see, and you see the other swing of the other one. You don't even see the other one break. You just see the swing and the scream, and that's all you needed to see, and it's just horrific. And that's
yeah,
your hero's darkest hour.
So in terms of like to me, the difference between this movie and Send Help is I think really having a director like Sam Raimi. I don't know that Sam Raimi has ever reached like the Princess Bride levels of greatness because I think that movie is pretty much perfect. Or even When Harry Met Sally, like I don't know that he's necessarily made a movie as good as those two. But when you are making a horror movie, I really think you have to have somebody who is able to put some panache and style into what they're doing. I just think that flat out that's the only way a horror movie works. And I think what Sam Raimi does better than almost anybody is making his movies feel distinct and gross and just like very unsettling and creating an aura of unpredictability. And even a movie like with how homogenized the Marvel franchises at this point, and look, I don't think Doctor Strange is perfect, but I think that movie had a lot more going for it in terms of the direction than a lot of other Marvel movies. And to me, it's a shame that Sam Raimi was not given the opportunity to direct another one because I feel like this. I mean, you could really just see in Send Help how good he is. And it's probably unfair to compare a movie like Send Help, which is coming out all these years later, and like is very much playing in a similar sandbox, but is turning things on its ear a little bit. Like I think Rachel McAdams is much more sympathetic. Like obviously, she is certainly not a perfect protagonist, but I think that you can make an argument that you can root for her, whereas I don't think you can root for Kathy Bates. Like that to me is the difference. Like James Caan is not a great human being, but he's not detestable enough to deserve what he gets in this movie. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. And for me, I think what makes this movie just feel like a step down is that lack of style that Rob Reiner is a good director when it comes to having a good script and good dialogue, but when you're trying to get those visuals and you're really trying to establish tension, like I just don't know that that is where his strength lies.
Yeah, it's a good thing that the premise is so good on its own. You know what I mean? That kind of carries its own weight because it's obviously the setup is like it's going to be just this constant tension no matter what, up until the ending, and that's kind of what happens. So it's kind of this natural build anyway. So I guess he kind of gets away with that. But overall, he still get. I think he just gets the best out of his actors sometimes in this situation. Of course, with Kathy Bates, I love this Jim Caan's performance, man, because it's so not him. You know what I mean? It's like you never see him as like a writer type, and he's a writer in this, and he's writing at the typewriter and all that thing, and it's like he's got that writer mentality. You know what I mean? And I've seen him in Rollerball, where he's being this aggressive like sports player, jock, superstar athlete, and you see him in The Godfather as this aggressive young. Cocky mafia dude, and of course you see him in Thief. I haven't seen Thief yet, but it's definitely on my to be to watch list. I'm getting
My
through it.
God, you have. I mean, that
Hey,
movie.
I just watched Sam Raimi's Crime Wave to be honest, and that movie is wacky and not good at all. But in comparison to
I
Send
mean,
Help,
Thief is unbelievable. Just, I
yeah.
mean, it's
So
tough to say that any movie that Michael Mann, like in a world where heat exists, it's really hard to say that it's better. But whew, it's a
I've heard
banger.
about it, man. Yeah, I know. It's just I wish that Tubi version was 4K, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, and of course I want to mention what's his name, Richard Farnsworth as the sheriff. Great detective role. It's a shame that he gets killed off. I think that
Stephen
in a
King really knows how to kill off the
I
potential
know,
people
but
to play the
I think the
protagonists.
better
Like,
ending is that he lives, right? Like that's the happier, better, satisfying ending. Like
I mean, I don't know that you can get away with it.
instead of him being
But
shot, he can be knocked out, right? And then when Kathy Bates spoiler does the last jump, the last jump scare that every killer does, that's when he comes in, bashes her brains in, and saves James Caan. That's what I was expecting. But they they kind of switch it up and he gets shotgun to the fucking back
do
or the
you
chest or whatever it
realize that
was.
the first thing that he ever acted in was a Marx Brothers movie? Like that's how long he was in Hollywood. He was
I
literally
know.
in a
I
Marx
looked it up,
Brothers
and he's
movie.
like a guy primarily in like westerns because he's got that look. Does a lot of TV westerns, sheriff roles. He's perfect for it. Even
Yeah,
his late
he's.
age, he's so
I
great
feel
in this
like
movie.
there's so many of these actors that get put in these that get typecast as
I mean, he's so good at being a
the
detective.
long
Like, why
cat.
not?
Yeah,
And you put him in a nice jacket with a nice hat. I want him to live, man, but in my fantasy booking, he's he's saving the day at the end. But of course, he doesn't do that. He's dead. And the other comparison, I of course noticed the ending of this movie, the death of Kathy Bates, which is so satisfying, by the way, because she's a baby killer, ladies and gentlemen, which really irks me all the time. Every time I see that headline, it's just like you want her to die like so brutally because of that, because of what she did in the past. Even though it's implications, she's a
I
baby
mean
murderer, man.
that's how you create sympathy for James. Like James Caan is bigger, stronger, so you have to create sympathy by doing something that
Oh, and
bad.
smart move by, talk about leg work, or excuse me, arm work. Because there is leg work in this movie, but arm work for sure because he's like selling his arm the whole movie, which is great. So, if you want to be a great wrestler, folks, watch Misery and learn how to sell. Yeah, and of course, Richard Farnsworth coming in and all that kind of thing. It's just a great setup, and of course, the comparison is she gets killed with the statue of the pig, which is her pet. In the end of Send Help, it's the statue of a bull that's the murder weapon, and of course, they switch roles in that one. But pig, bull, grabbing the bull by the horns, right? That kind of joke that was in there.
Really, really,
Bringing home the
really.
bacon, huh? Bringing home the bacon.
Yes. Also worth mentioning, Frances Sternhagen as well. I mean, she's one of
Really horny in this movie,
those.
dude.
She's one of those ladies or those guys. Like, she is definitely somebody who you've seen in a million things. ER, I would say, and Cheers are probably the two things that I most associate with her. But
Cliff's mother, ladies and gentlemen, is the horny old lady in this movie, dude. Like that's all you can say. That's all you can say.
she's very good. She plays Carter's grandmother on ER, and yeah, it's a very solid performance. With us until 2023, died at the age of 93 years old.
Yeah, I know, man. She's one of those stalwarts. I think she acted until what 90, the day she died, or probably I don't know, maybe
I
not
mean,
to the day she
it's
died, but
unbelievable.
she's one of those
Her
people.
filmography starts. I'm talking about TV, 1956, and goes all the way until 2013. I mean,
Like you got to imagine
that's
if
unprecedented.
James Cameron made that Spider-Man movie, she would have been MA, right? Like that's the kind of role
Maybe. I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
in that
I think she
alternate
almost might be
universe with
too
Leonardo
old.
DiCaprio as Spider-Man.
Might be too old, almost. Like that's
Well, that's what they were saying about 2002's Sam Raimi Spider-Man. So, full circle with Sam Raimi on this episode, folks.
yeah. Sam Raimi, a very good director. Rob Reiner, also a very good director. Um, Again, kind of anything's. I mean, not a down note, but like this was not as good as the three previous movies. Like this is definitely not a movie that I feel belongs in like the pantheon of great movies. But I do have to say that Kathy Bates is well worth watching. Go out of your way to see this Academy Award winning performance. And I mean, it's an interesting thought exercise. I don't know that the James Caan performance totally works, but it is definitely different than what you're used to, for sure. But yeah, that is it for Rob Reiner. We have kind of we could absolutely go over like other things that he's done, but man, oh man, this feels like his big run was this one.
Yeah, and I got to give it an 8.5 out of 10. To me, it's one of those horror classics. Just one of those. I don't know if it's unsung because it's kind of blurs between the genres, right? It's suspense, it's drama, it's crime, but it does blend into the horror genre. And like I've mentioned before, the things that really scare me are real life stuff. And while I'm watching, supernatural ghost stuff, I'm having fun watching it. But I'm watching a movie like this, it's like tension's real because people are like this in real life. So that's where I'm coming from, and this really just gets to me every time I watch it. It really just gets under my skin a little bit, obviously with some of the breaking of the legs and stuff like that. But just the performance by Kathy Bates just gets to you. It really does. All time great perform. One of the all time great performances. Um, it's just incredible. What else can you say? She was a nobody before this, and I hate to say that, but it's true. And then all of a sudden, just this great casting out of nowhere because she was great in the theater and got recommended to Rob Reiner, and boom, all of a sudden she's a legend overnight. Not overnight, but man, just out of nowhere, just this new great acting talent, and she's been I don't know how many times she's been nominated since then, and then of course Emmy nominations for like TV spots. She's got her own
Yeah,
show
she's
now.
been
She's
around.
like the
She
new
was a Ryan
Matlock
Murphy regular for a while. She is now on the reboot of Matlock that's on CBS, and I mean that is a show that has a lot of critical acclaim, and I think a lot of it is because of her.
for sure, and that's what I keep hearing too. And that's a legacy show for CBS. So it's one of those things where CBS obviously recycles their shows, but sometimes it works, and sometimes you get like 8 seasons out of it. Like look at
Yeah,
Hawaii Five O.
yeah, I could definitely see that for sure.
So good for her. Like that's a good paycheck. It's consistent, and she anytime she wants to come back to movies, she can obviously do it, and she probably does every once in a while. So good for her. And of course, I'm going to remember on The Office. So this is one of those things where you got to kind of praise Kathy Bates because we don't really talk about her that much. So
Yeah, I don't know how many more Kathy Bates movies we're going to talk about, but this was a very good one. So, Brian, we are going to be paying tribute to somebody else in the month of March. So, why don't you take it away?
March has 5 weeks, and we're going to take advantage of that. It's mockumentary March, and that kind of ties in with the tribute to Catherine O'Hara. Of course, we talked about Christopher Guest being a part of all those mockumentary movies that kind of tie that SCTV slash other comedy connections together. We're going to kind of go out of order a little bit. It kind of makes sense when I'll explain. Next week, we're going to review Best in Show, which came out in 2000, which is one of my all-time favorite comedies. It has one of my all-time favorite happy moments in it as well. And it's the right match, and we're going to pair it off with one of the best ECW matches of all time. It probably is the best ECW match of all time, baby. The two out of
I
three
think I think
falls.
it's 100% the best match in
Yeah, a lot of
ECW.
people say it is. So 2 out of 3 falls, dog collar match. See the tie in there. Raven and Stevie Richards versus the Pitbulls. See the tie in there. It's dramatic. It's got all the ECW flair to it. You know what I mean? Interference.
So next week the right match is probably going to be one of the longer last right match segments we've ever done, because I think part of what we have to do is we actually have to explain what makes the match great, and like reciting the moves isn't what makes it great. It's the storytelling that's involved, and I think a lot of companies and even ECW itself have tried to capture this again, and it just hasn't worked. Like, this literally is the climax of like 3 different feuds, multiple storylines, so many payoffs. So next week we're gonna have to spend some time with this, because I think we really have to explain why this match is great.
And it's pretty much like not the epitome, but like the sum of all the 95 storylines of ECW up to that point. And it
I
wasn't the
mean,
finish with like the
literally,
Dreamer Raven feud, but it was a big chapter in that
it
feud.
was. I mean, literally, two non-participants, 911 choke slamming Bill Alfonso, is literally one of the biggest moments in this match. And unless we tell you why, it wouldn't mean anything. So make sure you come back and listen, and we'll explain all of it.
On top of talking about Best in Show, and of course, we're going to also talk about later in the month. I'm not sure in the order. I'll kind of figure that out afterward, but we're definitely going to do a review of Spinal Tap 1 and 2 because 2 just came out, and that's Rob Reiner's last film. So it's like kind of another full circle moment. We're reviewing Rob Reiner's last film next month. And of course, we're going to talk about uh, Waiting for Guffman and A Mighty Win. We're going to skip For Your Consideration only because I don't know. Maybe we'll save that for later. I feel like that's kind of one of the downer ones. It's not as funny to me. It's more of like a depressing movie towards the end of it because it's kind of like they sold their souls for Hollywood kind of a gimmick.
It's also very inside baseball. It actually would be a very good tribute to Catherine O'Hara, because I think like that, because she's like the
Or
star
maybe
of.
we'll switch it out with Waiting for God. I'm not entirely sure yet, but we're gonna set it up because
I
there's
mean,
just
I
kind of
think
one
those two
extra.
movies are kind of about equal. I think the two, A Mighty Wind, I think is the best one. Again, we're going to be talking about another folksy movie, another folk music movie, which is amazing. And I think Best in Show is probably number two, and then For Your Consideration and Waiting for Guffman are right about at the same level for me. I think. Look, I think I like the movies. I do have to say that they came to Netflix and I was kind of watching them. They're definitely good. I definitely smiled more than I laughed, which I feel like encompasses Schitt's Creek as well. So it'll be a pleasant.
Yeah, and it'll be a good like retrospective, and of course we can pay tribute to Catherine O'Hara, and I guess Christopher Guest is going to be in the center of it all. Hopefully nothing bad happens to him. Knock on wood.
Oh God.
I'm just saying, man, with our timing, good God, knock on wood again. So you never know. But that's going to be the month of March, and April is going to be a tribute to James Vanderbeek, mostly, but also a weird kind of bonus towards the end. So we'll talk about that. I'm not going to mention it, but it's going to be something that Jerome has. I don't know. I don't know if he's used to it. He doesn't really watch a lot of that genre, so we'll see. But he does love certain
we're gonna
aspects of
see.
the ad genre, so we'll see.
We will see how it all turns out. That's for sure.
Alrighty, so that's our
It's gonna be a
yeah.
unique. It's gonna be a very unique month. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's been fun talking about Rob Reiner. So I guess we'll talk to you next week. Thank you for listening.